Ask most teenagers to consider saving for their future, and they would probably ask, why? Will I have more fun spending my money when I'm old? Or they might even say, even if I did want to save my money, I really don't have enough to make any kind of difference to my future. Well, after learning a few simple facts about investing, most young people would probably be surprised to learn how easy and effective saving their money can be. It really doesn't take a lot of money to make an incredible difference to one's future. What it does take is consistent contributions, effective investments, and time. In many respects, young people have a tremendous advantage over older people when it comes to investing. Young people may not earn a lot of money, but they don't have a lot of expenses either. Most importantly, young people have time. A 15-year-old has 40 years before he or she will become 55, double the time that a 35-year-old has. And time is a major factor when it comes to determining the growth potential of one's savings.
Well, there's plenty of reasons to start early. A traditional school of thought would look at the impact of compounding returns on investing, and this is a pretty significant advantage, and time is a very important factor in the equation of compounding. For example, if you have two individuals, one 15 and one 25 years old, and they're both saving to retire at 35 years old, at 55, the one that starts at 25 would in fact have to save at least twice the amount that the person started 10 years earlier. So that's a pretty big impact.
Time is critical to the growth of an investment because of a little thing called interest. Technically, interest is defined as the cost of borrowing money. However, it is also used to refer to the amount that one receives on their savings. After all, when you save your money in the bank is actually borrowing your money. The bank isn't just keeping your money in a vault, they're using it to make loans and investments. Interest is usually expressed as a percentage. This refers to the percentage that will be calculated on the principal over a period of 1 year. So if you invested $100 for exactly 1 year and you were earning 10% interest, then after 1 year you would receive your original $100, which is the principal, plus another $10, which would be the interest. Interest gets a lot more exciting when we start to consider the effect of compounding. Compound interest is a term used to describe a situation where one receives interest on their interest. Over enough time, this compounding will actually cause an exponential growth in one's savings. Let's look at an example. What if we invested $1,000, received 10% interest, which was compounded monthly across a period of 50 years? Well, do you want to take a guess as to how much that investment will grow over that period of time? Anyone? Let's take a look. At first, we see very little growth. Our investment increases a little over the first 10 to 15 years, but somewhere around the 25-year mark, we start to see the growth really climb. Finally, after 50 years, our $1,000 has grown to over $145,000. Pretty amazing, isn't it? That's the power of compound growth. Let's just quickly review this investment. We invested $1,000 for a period of 50 years. We received 10% interest, which was compounded monthly. And our investment grew to over $145,000. Our return on our original $1,000 would be $144,369.92. Now that's what I call growth. There's a pretty neat formula that we can use to calculate the effects of compound interest on an investment. The final principal will be equal to our beginning principal times 1 plus the interest rate per compounding period to the power of the number of compounding periods. Don't worry, it sounds more complicated than it is. As a matter of fact, you can program a spreadsheet to perform this calculation for you in a snap. You just plug in your beginning principal, enter the interest rate, the number of compounds per year, and then the spreadsheet can easily calculate the interest rate per compounding period, the number of compounding periods, and the final principal. You can even see the formula for the final amount right here. That's the cell that had the beginning principal, times 1 plus the interest rate per compounding period to the power of the number of compounding periods. Try making a spreadsheet like this sometime. You can then change the principal, the interest rate, the compounding periods, and the time period to see what you'd have to invest in order to reach various financial goals. Actually, there's an easier formula to remember that still illustrates the power of compound interest. It's called the Rule of 72. The Rule of 72 states that the number 72 divided by the interest rate will give you approximately the number of years that will be required for your investment to double. So, at an interest rate of 10%, it would take approximately 7.2 years for an investment to double. Therefore, an initial investment of $1,000 would become $2,000 in approximately 7.2 years. In another 7.2 years, it would become $4,000, and in another 7.2 years, it would become $8,000, and so on. So, as you can see, time and the rate of interest we receive is absolutely critical to the growth of an investment. So now you're probably asking, how can I get a higher rate of return? The answer is, you simply have to accept a higher degree of risk. If we were to create a graph that compared reward with risk, we would see that the investments that net a higher return in the long run tend to be more volatile in the short run. So the secret is, if you want high growth, you have to be able to accept a higher degree of risk. And that generally means that you have to be in a position where you can invest for the long run.
The first thing you should think about before you start investing or start a savings plan is to sit down and figure out, first of all, why you want to start a savings plan, how much ultimately money you want to save, and how much you'll need to get there, and also, very important, how much risk you're willing to take with that money. If that's money that you need for school in 5 years, then you probably don't want to take too much risk with it. If this is money that you want to put away for 10 or 20 years down the road when you think you'll want to buy a home or something like that, then you can probably take a little bit more risk with that money. And also, if it's money that you just want to put into some type of investment account where you can play with some stocks and just see how the market works, you basically got to target that money as being high risk and potentially money that you're comfortable or could afford to lose that type of money.
Young people might not have a lot of money to invest at once, but if they had a part-time job, they might be able to save, say, $100 a month. This might not sound like a lot of money, but as you've seen, compound interest can work wonders with small amounts of money over long periods of time. But you know, there's another advantage to investing small amounts of money consistently over time. It's called dollar cost averaging. Dollar cost averaging refers to contributing the same amount of money into the same investment at regular time intervals, regardless of any value fluctuations the investment might experience. Here's an example. Let's say you got a tip on a nice little stock and you start to invest when the stock price is $9 a share. And then it dumps. It goes down to $8 a share. And then $7. And then $6. It starts to recover and heads back up to $7 a share and then back up to $8. But it doesn't return to the $9 that it was when you started to invest. So, does this mean that you've lost money on your investment? No, it doesn't. Let's look at what happened. You invested $100 when the price was $9 a share, and you faithfully kept investing $100 every month. Now, if you take a close look at the number of shares you bought each month, you will notice that you bought about 11 shares when the price was $9, but you bought almost 17 shares when the price was $6. In the end, dollar cost averaging forced you to buy more shares when the price was low and fewer shares when the price was high. If you compare the money you spent to the current value of your stock, you will find that even a price of $8 a share will make you a winner. So, at the end of 6 months, you have invested a total of $600. You've accumulated 81.3 shares at an average price of $7.38 a share. The current stock price is $8, so the current market value of your investment is $650.79. That's a return on investment of 8%, and that's only across 6 months. Compare this approach to investing the same amount of money in the same stock, but investing all of the money up front. $600 would be invested, purchasing only 66.7 shares at an average price of $9 a share. At a new market price of $8 a share, this investment is now worth only $533, and the investor has incurred an 11% loss. Perhaps this illustrates a potential advantage to not having a lot of money to invest at once. So you're probably thinking that you don't have a whole lot of time before you'll be graduating and going off to university. Well, the good news is the government is doing what it can to assist your small amount of savings to grow as fast as possible. In an effort to encourage Canadians to save, the government has established a number of registered savings plans, which allow us to save our money in a variety of investments and experience compound growth tax-free, or shall we say, tax-deferred.
There's basically two tools that you can use to save for education, post-secondary education. One is called an RESP. This is a Registered Education Savings Plan. And the other one is referred to as an in-trust account. Each of them have unique characteristics associated with them. The RESP is a government-sponsored savings plan. And effectively what it allows you to do is contribute a certain amount each year, up to $4,000 and $42,000 over the life of the plan. And this money is earmarked. It's contributed by a parent or a grandparent, and it's earmarked for a particular beneficiary, the student, for their post-secondary education. A couple of benefits with doing these types with an RESP is that any income that's earned on the money within there, the tax is deferred until the time that it's withdrawn from the plan. And at that time, when it is withdrawn, it's taxed in the hands of the student or the child. Now, that may not sound like the best thing for the student, but typically they're in a lower tax bracket, which means that they will pay less tax on the money than if it was taxed in their parents' hands. This is something that's called income splitting, and it's a very popular method that's used to reduce taxes paid. The other benefit of an RESP is the government has set up in the past couple of years grants available for these RESPs. The government will contribute up to $400 to the plan, depending on the size of the contribution that you have made, each year up to a maximum of $7,200. And this is a huge benefit for individuals saving for education. Now, there's a couple of things to be aware of with RESPs. One of them is that if the student does not go to continue on in post-secondary education, then the grants have to be repaid. The money is any income that was earned is taxed then in the hands of the parents, and plus there's a pretty hefty penalty that's levied by the government on any income that's earned. So there's a bit of a risk associated with that. That can be mitigated to some extent if you have more than one beneficiary in the plan. And essentially what that does is if one of the children does not go to university and the other one does, then it reduces the penalties that are applied on the plan. The other thing, the government has set up the ability to be able to transfer that money, assuming none of the kids go to university or college. you can transfer that money into an RSP of the parents depending on availability of unused contribution room. The other type of plan is called an in-trust account, and this is a little bit more informal arrangement. It's not a government-sponsored plan, and essentially what you can do is the parents or the grandparents set up a plan with the child as the beneficiary. They contribute funds to this plan. There's no maximum limit set on it, but there's also no grants provided by the government. The income that's earned, the tax splitting is slightly less beneficial than the RESP because only capital gains within the plan are taxed in the child's hand. Any income, interest, or dividends will still be taxed in the parent's hand. Now you can lessen the impact of that just by buying an investment that has very little interest or dividends. This can be a mutual fund or a stock that does not pay any dividends, and so that will reduce the impact there. The other side of in-trust account is that if the child doesn't go to university, there's no impact there because it's not a government-sponsored plan. There's no restriction on actually what the funds can be used for. They can be used for any purpose down the road. The most popular tool available for saving for retirement is an RRSP. This is a registered retirement savings plan. And even though you're young and probably not thinking about retirement and shouldn't be thinking about retirement, it's not a bad idea to start looking at RRSPs at a very young age. Now, an RRSP, similar to an RESP, is also a government-sponsored savings plan. The benefits of it are similar to an RESP again, in that any income that's earned within the RRSP, the tax on it is deferred until the time when you withdraw the money from that plan. The other benefit, and this one is big, of putting money into an RSP is that when you contribute money to that RSP, that dollar amount is deducted from your income and thereby reduces your taxes for that year. So as an example, if you made $50,000 one year in income and you contributed $5,000 to your RRSP, that would reduce your income to $45,000. And this could save you a couple $1,000s in income tax in that particular year, which is a pretty big benefit, especially if you then reinvest that amount and enjoy the benefits of that compounding return as well. So for you, not worrying about retirement right now, I mean, we've got to think about why would you want to look at this today. There's a couple different reasons that you might be able to benefit from this. If you have any earned income today, summer job or anything like that, what you should be doing is, regardless of how old you are, you should be filing an income tax return. Now, you might think that that's going to mean I have to pay taxes, and you don't want to do that, but as long as you're earning basically less than about $7,300 a year, you'll pay no taxes. And the good thing that will happen is the government will automatically calculate an RSP contribution room for you. And it'll be available to you the year following that you contribute, that you file your income tax return. Now, this amount is set and it carries forward basically for your lifetime. So if you make a or you have an income of $7,000, the government will calculate your RSP room based on 20% of that, so that'll be about $1,400 that you'll have in RSP contribution room. You don't have to make that contribution into the RSP. What you can do is carry that forward if you want till the time when you start working. So if you waited 10 years, you'd effectively have $12,000 or $13,000 in unused contribution room, which at that time, when you started earning an income, a significant income, you could use that and save a significant amount of tax. Now, the other thing that you can do, if you had the money from your savings, is that you could actually put the money into the RSP. You wouldn't have to claim the deduction that year, but the money goes into the RSP. It's earning income on a tax-deferred basis, so you're not paying any tax on your savings, on the interest on your savings. And then still, at age 25 or whenever you wanted, you've built up that amount of contribution. You could deduct it in a year when you have a significant amount of income. So thinking about saving for retirement, maybe it's too early at this age, but thinking about starting RSPs can have a huge impact on your savings down the road. I believe that the most important thing about starting early is that it's the best time to learn something. You get the most impact from the education of it. The most important thing you should start doing is doing it. And in this day and age, with the internet available, it is possible to go online, basically, and in a virtual world, begin investing. And it's one of the best ways to learn is by doing it. On the internet, you can get quotes, you can get research, there's chat rooms, there's the how-tos of investing, and these are all very critical things and tools that you can access to learn how to invest. And you can do it, as I said, either in a virtual world, or if you have some money and you can invest, you can do it in real time.
As you can see, young people do have a lot going for them when it comes to investing. First of all, the government has set up some great savings plans which young people can take advantage of. Secondly, when compared to most adults, young people have fewer expenses, more time to take advantage of compound interest, a higher risk tolerance, allowing them to take advantage of higher rates of return, and finally, young people don't have a lot of money to invest at once, so they're practically forced to use dollar cost averaging.
We shouldn't leave any exploration of saving and investment without first discussing goals. Now, a person's objectives or motivation to save is their own, but it's important to note that saving and investment isn't necessarily about getting rich. No matter how you look at it, saving is really about increasing the options that we'll have in our future. It would be a shame to discover later on in life that our ability to explore new opportunities like post-secondary education, starting our own business, or buying a new home is limited due to our lack of financial resources. Finally, good financial planning is really about being responsible. It's about doing what we can to improve our odds of being able to take care of ourselves and the people we care about in our future. I hope you've enjoyed this program, and I sincerely hope you will consider setting up a financial plan for yourself that includes saving and investment. Best of luck in your future.